This Sunday Federalist is an invitation for the Iowa farmer, the Arkansas teacher, and the Ohio dentist to find common ground, a language that bridges their daily realities. When we recognize that we are not adversaries but simply standing on different shores of the same economic river, the empty middle is no longer a void. It becomes a space where genuine conversation can take root. That is the legacy the Federalist left us in 1787. Reaching across the divide and helping build that bridge today is not just worthwhile, it is essential. History reminds us that Hamilton, Madison, and Jay did not write the Federalist from the safety of ivory towers. Their words emerged amid turmoil, when the American experiment teetered on the edge. The nation was weary, divided, and battered by economic hardship. Their work endures not because it offered instant solutions but because it did something deeper. They lifted the conversation above the noise of political attack, grounding it in the realities of human nature, the facts of economic life, and the architecture of governance. They revealed that the debate was never a simple choice, but a search for balance, a system that could hold both liberty and stability in careful tension. They trusted that ordinary people, given honesty and clarity, could grasp even the most complex ideas. Today we face our own crossroads, wrestling with issues one by one. We take up the challenge of listening to opposing voices, searching for that forgotten channel, the empty middle, where a third way quietly waits to be discovered. When politicians argue over the national debt, it can sound like a distant contest of numbers too large to grasp. But for the Iowa farmer watching fuel and fertilizer costs climb, for the Las Vegas teacher reaching into her own pocket for classroom supplies, or for the Ohio dentist facing doubled interest rates on a practice loan, the debt is anything but abstract. It is a silent, growing burden woven into the fabric of daily life. Trouble is not a shortage of economic ideas. Trouble is that each political side offers only half the truth, leaving a hollow space where common sense and shared purpose once lived. Picture two ships once anchored in the same harbor, now charting courses in opposite directions. Core beliefs of each party have become distant shores, and the gulf between them only widens with each passing tide. First, consider the left's hopeful vision, investment and protection. When we spend on schools, infrastructure, and healthcare, it is not wasteful. It is the careful work of laying the foundation for a nation where families are not left to slip through the cracks. Across the divide, the right's vision is one of capital efficiency and growth. By lowering tax burdens and easing restrictions, they place trust in private enterprise to spark innovation, create opportunity, and allow workers to hold on to more of what they earn. Yet the left's blind spot is fiscal overreach. Relying on borrowed money to fund every new initiative slowly erodes the value of each dollar in our pockets. This very cycle helps drive up the cost of groceries, fuel, and the roofs over our heads. The right's blind spot is revenue starvation. When tax cuts go unfunded, even as spending grows elsewhere, the Treasury is left running on empty. The debt swells, federal interest payments climb, and the ripple effect reaches small businesses and families trying to buy a home. And that leaves us right here in the empty middle. A political no-man's land where neither side acknowledges their own balance sheet, leaving everyday Americans stuck with higher prices, higher interest, and lower purchasing power. So how do we bridge this gulf? By setting our compass toward the center, guided by honesty and a sense of shared responsibility. The middle path acknowledges two basic truths: we cannot bankrupt our future to fund the present, and we cannot starve our foundation to claim we're saving money. True fiscal integrity means finding balance, making wise, accountable investments in our people, while also insisting on honest revenue and real limits on what we spend. Obama created a bipartisan task force, and he was the only one since 2000 to reduce the debt. True fiscal integrity means finding balance, making wise, accountable investments in our people, while also insisting on honest revenue and real limits on what we spend. Obama created a bipartisan task force, and he was the only one since 2000 to reduce the debt. Because in the end, it is not about party lines. It is about the economy that shapes the lives of the farmer, the teacher, the dentist, and all of us who call this country home. It is time for independents to stand up, take the helm, and build an economy that truly works for everyone. The distinction between the annual budget deficit and the total national debt is often misunderstood, partly because these terms are used interchangeably in public discourse. Clarifying this difference is essential to understanding fiscal policy more accurately. Since Calvin Coolidge's administration in the 1920s, each successive president has left office with a higher total national debt than at the start of their term. This persistent increase underscores the enduring challenges of managing the nation's fiscal obligations. Nevertheless, President Obama, as well as President Clinton before him, achieved substantial reductions in the annual budget deficit during their respective administrations. A reduction in the deficit indicates that the federal government is borrowing less additional money each year, although the cumulative national debt continues to grow as long as deficits persist. Understanding the distinction between the annual deficit and the total accumulated debt reveals that discussions about fiscal responsibility often focus on different aspects of the same financial system. Both perspectives rely on valid data, yet they address separate components of the government's fiscal health.